In this video, I'm going to show you the three main steps to steal like an artist and level up your music productions to the next level. So if you're a bedroom producer, you can go to pro level productions in any genre, and as you become pro, you can continue to absorb from the latest tricks from other artists that are inspiring you and you want to learn their tricks from. And this is pretty straightforward, applies right the way through your career, and I'm going to do it on an acid house track called Maurice, This Is Acid. And I picked this track because I've been making a lot of sort of rave influenced tunes over the last year, and this tune's quite cool and original, and I wanted to break it down, so I made a cover of it from scratch, and that you can buy that on my Bandcamp. So I'm going to break you through the three key steps basically. So I'll give you a little track of the track, but basically get a copy of the audio file, put it in your DAW, get it laid out into the full section, and then what we do is we go through and we dissect that track and we make individual MIDI tracks for each of the elements: drums, bass, lead sound, effects, vocal, dropouts, split it up to give that granularity, and basically you follow and dissect each element through the track individually, and you also alongside that use the EQ to break parts out and understand where they sit in the frequency space. So I'll give you a blast of this track. We'll click through some sections. I've done a crude analysis here, deleted my original one, and these are the colored sections. So when you put the MIDI blocks in, do them in color, and where sections are repeated, you can then build up a picture of how the arrangement goes and what parts are reused. Some tracks might be quite simple, and you hear in pop about A, B, C and A, B in the arrangement, and this is all to do with like a verse being repeated with a chorus, middle eight, and these type of things. And you get it. It varies in house and electronic music, how repetitive the sections are. Quite often you may only have like a 2-bar drum loop, and then it's just elements laid over top of that, coming in and out over the production. And by doing these colored MIDI blocks as you dissect the track, you'll get an understanding of how that production is made up and what it involves, and that can inform your own skills. So yeah, if we take this from the top, if we look on the EQ here, you get a sense of where things is hitting. This is off a YouTube rip, so it's not amazing, but bit of classic dip in the middle, a rise up, come to the bottom end.
It's a certain groove. I'm getting acid. Beating on the floor. Can you feel it? Don't you want some more? Can you feel it?
So you get the sense he's layering different sections up on top. And sometimes a common feature is to stack the groove, and this is really a lot easier with MIDI tracks, where you can copy the MIDI and then just apply another sound, stack it on top, and so the rhythm feels the same once you've got that down, but you're adding freshness in. And this is really what Maurice has done very cleverly in this track right the way through. And so what you do is build up this picture of what the parts in the production do all the way through. Identify the hook, how that's intertwined, how it builds tension. Look at the frequency spectrum and understand. So give you an example in this part here. If we click on this is a drop,
Don't you want some more?
If you look at the EQ, it's still really full.
Don't you want some more?
Even though the drums are out, it's still really full. And these are key bits where sometimes you might hear, like in some of the classic house, it's got an M1 piano on there, but there'll be an octave layering with bass or another mid sound that adds a punch that punches through and isn't as obvious when you initially hear the track. But these, when you're trying to raise your production to the next level, these tricks of octave layering and other instruments or sine wave basses that are at octaves that aren't so prevalent to the ears when you're not trained in it, but make a huge difference on that solid punch in the frequency spectrum. And this is where you need to use the EQ to play around and isolate sections. So you're playing that.
Acid in the air.
Drop things in and out, and here's a classic trick here that
Now we'll make you rock your body.
that's kind of like the frequency spectrum you're going to get on a phone.
And once you hear it, there'll be no going back. Everybody out there.
So you can see you've still got the main sound and you're going to still get a bit of punch, and that's a trick when you're making your own productions to see what's present there. But yeah, so you'll use the EQ to isolate sections and break it down, and then basically stage 2, remake it. You think you've understood it, but you don't really know until you can replicate that almost identically. And so you'll start with, if it's dance music, you're watching this, you're going to start with drums, the kick, the snare, the percussion that's in there. And so I remade my version with a different break. This is kind of, sort of skip this step if you like. But you would remake it, you'd get everything the same, starting by going to maybe the simplest section with the drums, get the drums sounding tight, then add in the bass line, then the lead hook, find some of the key elements, and then once you've got that popping and grooving and replicates an 8-bar section, then start looking at how it evolves and the other effects that you've got to build in there. And that might take you, if you're a bedroom producer trying to get a pro production, that might take you a month to unravel it and figure things out, watch different YouTube videos of how the bass is sitting. But if you're using Ableton, like I made the bass line in this is stock FM house bass sound, and it's just got some overdrive. That's one of the key bits to add that crunch and bring out the mid-tones. Overdrive, reverb and delay are really essentials for bringing a sound together and making it what will be on a record. And then you always want to be driving it into, I use a tape band, come off on this. I use like tape saturation on the master that's like basically triple band limiting, and that pulls everything together and makes it sound somewhere towards what it would be mastering. Another key bit when you're trying to remake it is mixed in key, and this will tell you what notes are playing, what the key is, the options, and that's a key bit to check your samples, make sure they're in key, and see what the original is when you're trying to work out the notes. So once you've remade it, the third step is make your own variation. This is how you learn to bring in some originality. You've broken it down in the MIDI sections using the notes, identified where what sections are repeated in the track, the key elements, how they evolve. You've then spent time remaking an exact copy. The key now, you've got a blueprint for that artist's output for a track that's really making you feel inspired and you want to make as good a track. So you've remade it, you understand those nuances. the key then is to make your own variation. Use that as a bed. So an obvious one would be keep the drums exactly the same, but make your own bass line and lead hook, and make an 8-bar variation, and understand if that track is all about the drop, make a drop that's got as much tension, or make a different idea and just build a drop section. So what I did in this remake is a new rave generator had a bunch of the sounds. So it has the Black Riot Stab, which is off a James Brown record. That was what Maurice had sampled for This Is Acid. So I then took that. I knew it had the siren screams in that are in here. I just zoom that in. So that's they're in the sirens in. And then I just took some different drums. So how I added my variation is I wanted to, for simplicity, I kind of wanted to, got the waves, then built up some 808 percussion. Kind of, I guess, where I added my variation in what I wanted to do with this, with the time I wanted to spend, was I made like a different funky groove basically. So I took a break, got some drums, and this was the main bit. Just made like a cool bass line. It's quite simple. On the note, steps onto the 7th and down the, probably like the 5th listening, and that was and then I used a bit of what Maurice had done with layering different elements, like here just added a different synth on the top, and laid it out, and that's where when you're looking at understanding the frequency spectrum and how that affects a tune, a key bit of making your own tunes is the layering of the instruments. If you're in an acoustic band, the bass sits tightly in one area, then the guitar's in another, and then the vocal and your drum, and it naturally fills the frequency spectrum. That can be very hard as a music producer using a lot of electronic samples, because quite often the soft synths spread over like massive areas, and you often find you have to high pass things to keep them within an area and keep it clean and allow the space for your other sounds to fit in the mix. Haven't got any on that. Looking at the Riv, not used many on much. A little bit of stuff on there, the siren. Yeah, I've not ended up using a lot of any EQing on it, to be honest, but yeah, a lot of the EQ is what you'd look for. Okay, so to sort of wrap things up, there's 3 stages for you to steal like an artist and level your game up as a music producer to the next level at any point in your career. Get a reference track of an artist you love, dissect it, understand the hook, how it works, how all the elements evolve, remake it, get as close as you can to the original, spend some time, learn new tricks, dissect what they've done to get their sound, and then make your own variation on it. Use that blueprint as a template, write your own riff, use the drums or write new drums, change the sounds and make something cool that's got your own individual stamp on it. And your production game, you've got a reference track. If you're honest and truthful with the A to B, you will know then you've made something that's of production release quality. And you can do that when you're at a pro level and someone's blown your mind with a new artist that's come out, and you want to understand it, dissect it, remake it, and you'll always find a way to level up your music production game. Thanks for watching, and subscribe to the channel for more videos, mainly my own productions, but I'll be peppering them with little stuff like this on some key bits to be a music producer. Thank you.